Hello guys, and if you need some really good facts that demonstrate how the Ukrainian drones together with the economic sanctions literally destroy Russia's war budget, you need to watch this video because finally we have some numbers. In October, the White House imposed new sanctions targeting Russia's Lukoil, Rosneft, and remembering that Russia is a country totally dependent on selling its natural resources. And thus, in October alone, Russia lost 12% of revenues, minus 12% of revenue in a country that experiences extremely high budget deficit. Actually, I was pleasantly surprised to discover that during the 7 years, consecutive years, Russia experiences high budget deficit. But it was somewhere near 2%. And in 2025, it hit bottom with 2.6. And the forecast for 2026 is even worse if they take into account they need to spend more now, not just on the attacks of the neighboring countries, but also on the defense of dozens of Russian regions that turned into a war zone. Russia's budget is empty and Putin is mad. He literally cannot stop this war because this would mean the end of his regime, but he doesn't have money to continue it. So let's discuss the numbers and the evidence why Russia will collapse soon, and if you subscribe, we will witness that together and discuss that online with much pleasure. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and I believe justice is important. Share these videos if you agree. So let's begin with these very important updates that are impossible to hide, and they come from the Russia's federal budget that is fully dependent on the export of their natural resources, oil and gas. That's why companies like Lukoil, like Gazprom, like Rosneft were super important for the survival of this vastly unnaturally large territory. And they dropped minus 12% in October. Just imagine, when the country already speaks about 2.6% budget deficit, they need to say that they've lost 12% of revenues in October alone. And it's so pathetic to watch how some Russia-paid politicians, some Russia-paid experts and journalists keep describing this country as a strong economy or as a strong army. Let's be realistic. Since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, they managed to get less than 1% of the Ukrainian territory and still sacrifice 1 million of their own soldiers. And with the economy, with the GDP smaller than of Texas, of California, I know you don't like me comparing the states, but I'm not comparing the states. I'm speaking about the largest country in the world that wants to threaten you, that wants to impress you. And just think about its GDP. I know that California or Texas, these are big, rich states that specialize in something that is much needed around the world. But Russia is the largest country. Russia is the country that constantly wants to describe itself as a superpower. Well, it's not. It's obviously not. They are fully dependent on the selling of these resources, and with Lukoil destroyed, with Rosneft destroyed, with Gazprom destroyed, and all of these are also Ukrainian drone sanctions, minus 40% of oil refining facilities, and with sanctions they need to sell the leftovers cheaper than the official prices, cheaper than anything that other countries that did not attack anyone, that are not under sanctions, can sell. This is one of the reasons why even using their shadow fleet, while even trying to avoid sanctions and inventing various tools and instruments, they do not succeed, because they lose with each new sanction, with each new problem for those countries that still support Russia or want to buy their bloody oil. More and more obstacles are created and fewer companies want to do it. And for them to want to do it, you need to offer something unique. And that's why the Kremlin constantly drops the prices. And together with these prices, drops their revenue, minus 12% in October alone. Compare that to your countries, compare that to your families, compare that to your companies, and you would realize these demands immediate changes in the economic management, in the attitudes. But do we see anything like that coming in Russia? No. They just say they want to spend more money on the attack of Ukraine, on the attack of your countries in a hybrid way, with drones flying literally all over European Union. But they now also need to defend constantly exploding oil refineries. They need to pay the soldiers, because all of the Russian army is there for the sake of money, for the ability to loot, for the ability to earn this money for committing war crimes in Ukraine. And if they are not paid, they can return back to Russia, and who will stop them? Putin is desperate, he's afraid of that. But now we have serious reports from various regions of the Russian Federation that these local authorities don't have money to add to those salaries that were promised to Russian soldiers. So the problems are rising, the protests are beginning. All of these protests are fully economic. And of course, they do not demonstrate this conscious approach of people or that political or social responsibility, but they create problems for the Kremlin regime, which collapse we will soon witness. And another important thing is that during these 7 consecutive years, Russia actually reported budget deficit, and it was always really high. It was more than 1%, because from what I understand, 1% is something that many countries experiences. And this, it was always more than 2% of their GDP. And now it's 2.6, and it will keep growing, same as the expenses on defense, same as the expenses on army, and their revenues will keep falling. Because even China and India, that constantly backed up Russia, they don't want it if it costs them a lot. More and more countries abandon Russian gas and oil. The European Union is free of that, apart from Hungary and Slovakia, and I do believe that people will change something to become independent from the Russian Federation, from the Kremlin, because the Kremlin traditionally uses its natural resources as an instrument of blackmail, as an instrument of hybrid warfare against those countries which still depend on Russia. Let me know, are you free this Saturday, 9 p.m. for a conversation where we can discuss this topic a little bit deeper? But I kind of like the numbers. They are very serious. Minus 12% of revenue during just 1 month. Thumbs up and subscribe to witness the collapse of the Kremlin together. Same as follow me on Instagram, X, Blue Sky, Threads, Discord, and Anna Danilchuk channel, where we discuss important things like, for example, why do friends of Putin constantly fall out, either of his inner circle or of the windows. And thank you so much for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel. And if you have time and if you feel like that, let me know what products and what services are getting more expensive in your countries. I want to understand, I want to see what bothers people in different parts of our beautiful world. And thank you so much for being an amazing friends and family community here. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channels. This is a blessing and an honor, and I'm happy to be able to work more, but most importantly, to be able to explain Ukraine to you. This is a blessing and a privilege. Love you very much. Hope to see you this Saturday, 9 p.m. Kyiv, if you are available. And do let me know what are the other topics you'd like to discuss in our community. Greetings from Kyiv. I have electricity today, and we know we stand for our country, and we need to defeat Russia. That is the only working peace plan, and it is already implemented, which is important. United we stand. Slava Ukraini!